In this third and last part on video lectures in online teaching, I want to walk you through some examples of my own teaching to illustrate some of the points I made in the two earlier videos on this topic. So the examples I'm going to show you come from one of my online courses called MHS 607, Writing for a Scholarly Journal. This course is the second 8-week course in our exclusive online certificate program, Science Communication, in the graduate school. So students take that typically in the second half of the fall semester. Just to share the learning outcomes with you so you have an idea what the class does. It has one of the outcomes is that students will be able to explain the differences between and relevance of select genres in scientific communication, and the ones that we focus on, or that I focus on in the modules, and meaning there's assignments for these as well in each module, are the IMRAD journal article, and IMRAD stands, just to make sure we're all on the same page, for introduction, methods, results, and discussion. It's the typical, excuse my handwriting, but you get the idea. It's a typical structure for almost all work published based on empirical research. We also look at book reviews, we look at systematic reviews, meta-analyses and review articles, case studies and case reports. The other learning objective is that students will be able to create and analyze sample sections of traditional empirical research paper, the IMRAD format. We spent about 3 modules on this, and students here have the option of either using their own work if they're working on an article, or they can alternatively analyze another article. But in both assignments, they have to write about what are some of the common elements, what I call rhetorical moves in these particular sections, which I have reviewed extensively in some of the videos that I've created for them. They also will be able to describe the publication cycle of a scholarly journal article, and ultimately create a portfolio of their written course materials to document the revision process, because a big part of my teaching philosophy when it comes to writing is that I really want to hone in on the revision process and give students multiple opportunities to revise their work. So as a context for this particular class. So couple of points that I've taken from the previous 2 lectures, or previous 2 videos, parts on from this presentation. I really always try to make my lectures as dynamic as possible, right? And so I like to demonstrate what I'm talking about while doing it. So for example, there's one video that I give to students in the first module, and it's an introductory video where I introduce them to various genres in scholarly journals. And those are genres that are not covered in detail in the class, but they include genres such as letters to the editor, commentary, research reports. Depending on each journal, it looks a little different. So here is a screenshot from from the video. It's 14 minutes long, as you see here, so it's a little bit on the longer side. But here what I've done is I talk about this in the context of author guidelines, but I also am providing them some examples of different genres. So here I have the Journal of Public Health, the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, and also from Cell. And here are some of the other genres on top of the genres we're covering in the class that are typical for these journals. And so when I'm doing this, I'm reviewing this with them in the video. And so at 6:22, and then just to show you at 6:58, I go into the first example. So I click on the link. Of course, the website opens. I scroll up and down the website. I mark certain things for them in here. So just like I'm doing right now with you, I might mark it with my pen and so on, to again make it as dynamic as possible to break up the static nature of students watching videos in a very passive way. My second example I want to give you for this, my credo of making my lectures dynamic as possible, has to do with drawing on the screen. So you actually been seeing me do this because I am using my iPad Pro being mirrored on the laptop, so I can use the Apple Pen to draw. But I want to show you some screenshots from some of the videos I made for my students. And this comes from Module 5. And in Module 5, my students reviews, systematic reviews, meta-analyses, and review articles. And they have to, a writing assignment is to write a summary of a Cochrane review. We're working with Susan Whelan over from the School of Medicine, who works with the Cochrane database, with Cochrane reviews, where actually we had 2 or 3 of our students publish a review, a summary of a review, or they're slated to be published. So that's kind of exciting. Michelle Pierce, our program director, was able to make a connection for me with Susan in the School of Medicine. So great collaboration. So there's 2 ways you can sort of make drawing on the screen happen. Using the Apple Pencil, which I'll show you in a second with an example, but you can also use the PowerPoint animation feature. So you'll see here the these little oval kind of, these circles, these oval circles these ovals that circle certain words in here, which means you have to prepare it beforehand as you're prepping your PowerPoint slide. In this particular part of the video, we're here at minute 11:04, and again, one of the longer videos, 18:10. I tend to have shorter videos in my earlier modules because I record them first, and the longer I do this, the longer my videos get, so I have to work on that. But anyways, I digress. So in this particular video, students are asked, let me backtrack, students are asked to write a summary of the Cochrane Review, and they have to follow a particular format. One of the things that they're asked to do is to write about the level of evidence. So here I'm showing them from a sample abstract from a Cochrane Review where they can find the information, what the language that's used in this particular review, as in many other reviews, where they can identify it as information that then students can paraphrase to put into their own words. So again, the PowerPoint animation feature can sort of simulate the drawing, quote unquote, on the screen. Of course, you can also use something like an Apple Pencil and iPad Pro by, again, screen mirroring my iPad. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put my email very quickly in here. It's imay@umaryland.edu, but you can also find my info on the Writing Center's website too. So anyways, in this example, we're now on minute 15 and 13 in the video, same video. I'm sharing a slide that Susan has provided me with about how to word results in their summary. And so as I'm talking about how to read this table, I'm kind of circling things, right? You see it's circled here, and I would circle some more over here, and so on. So again, make it as dynamic as possible by helping students to focus on all the information, and it kind of breaks it down for them in a useful way, I think. Example 3, it goes back to the animation feature on PowerPoint, and this time I use it to add explanations that I'm also mentioning verbally, but I also put them, sort of highlight them visually on the PowerPoint. Let me give you an example. This comes from Module 2. Let me go back here for a second. Module 2, where I'm demonstrating what I call typical rhetorical moves, sort of structural elements that are typical for introductions for in-read articles. And by the way, this is an example where my students have to take a look at the article beforehand. So I asked them to review this introduction sections of, I think it's 2 articles because I have 2 videos, one each on an introduction section. So if they have never looked at it and I throw this video at them, it's going to be too much information. So they have to do some prep work for it, right? So assuming they have all reviewed this to a certain extent, I'm much more comfortable than throwing all these words, all these paragraphs on the screen. So here you see I've used the PowerPoint sort of animation feature to kind of have little squares or any kind of visual marker, visual kind of, something fly in, so to speak, that emphasizes my main point. So my main point is always that, about the introduction, that here, for example, or many writers use 1 to 3 paragraphs to describe for what is known, the context of the research, before doing something else in the introduction, right? That's very typical. And so here I highlight a strong statement. So as I'm talking about this, I'm saying, oh, there's a strong statement at the end of the first paragraph, and boom, comes this flying in, right? And it stays there for a while. So again, it visually emphasizes what I'm speaking about. It's a really, really useful and simple tool. Now here, you've seen is at minute 2:45. You'll see here I'm much shorter in my video. Yay, again, module 2. So at minute 2:45, and then same text a little bit later at 5:38. You see I've added a lot of drawings. Here is my great skill of drawing the inverted triangle, right? That structure for the introduction section. I'm underlining some things as I'm going through, and I'm walking them through it. Oh, here in the second paragraph, and then I can underline it, and the students can see what I'm talking about very clearly. So again, very useful, makes it, I think, very dynamic. And then lastly, this is not always my strength, but I really have to, my project this summer is to re-record some of my videos because they are a little bit on the lengthy side at times, and I know I can break them up. And lengthy for me is, anything above 12 to 15 minutes. 12 minutes, yeah, ideally I'd like to be at 10 or 11 minutes. Well, right now I'm already at 10.5 minutes with you, so you'll see I can give myself some leeway sometimes. But again, keeping videos as short as possible is really important. And here's the example I want to give you. I mentioned this before. This is from the module 2 on IMRED introductions. Here, just briefly, some of the learning objectives that I have for this module, and again, by focusing on one general topic per video, right? So here, the way I broke this out, this is what students see as a required resource. You see here is my first video, introduction section, part 1. And when I do this again, I'll probably rename it general introduction and then sample. I might take out the part 1, part 2, part 3 stuff, because it just looks like it's all the same. So I might give them very specific names. That's just one of the things that I've noticed in my review of my class earlier this spring. So what you see, the first video, 7 minutes, 19 seconds, general review on common rhetorical moves, lots of slides with different examples, lots of drawing on the slides like I do, and so on. Then I give them a handout where I have them read this sample introduction, and I very clearly read before watching the next video, and then watch the video of which you just seen a few screenshots. Then they have another handout, so they do the same thing again with a different intro, and then watch another video. So each video is they're all focused on introductions, but on different subsections in terms of introductions of IMRED articles. Okay, so it has really worked well for some sections. Sometimes, again, I find it harder to break it down into videos shorter than 10 minutes, but I really want to challenge myself and you as well that we can definitely do it. But if you have a video that's up to 20 minutes long and it's your first time doing it, go with it. Your students will still thank you of having something personalized by you than nothing, or something from another site that might not apply as clearly to the course as your own videos will. So here are some of the resources on video lectures, and here's some resources on online learning that I've used. I'm not going to spend too much time here. I will make those available to you so you can actually click on them, as well as this particular site here, where when you have access to the slides, or somewhere, you'll be able to access these particular videos if you want to take a look at them. And best of luck to creating wonderful and engaging video lectures. And as I always like to say, if I can do this, I am by no means a tech wizard, but if I could do this, anybody else can as well. So good luck.